Hello friends, I am so excited to be bringing you 14 days of winter before winter break and 14 picture books all about winter and different holidays that get celebrated during this time and family times together, things to be thankful for, giving. So I am excited to share 14 books with you. That some of them are favorites of mine and some are new to me as well, and hope that we can enjoy some time of great reading together and things to talk about when we are all together again back at school. So I am going to read this book today called Owl Moon, and this is a book by Yolen. I picked this book as one of the 14 because I love the description that's in this book. It really, for those of you working on sensory details in your writing, is a great example of using all of your senses to describe an experience. So I hope you could close your eyes and listen to this one maybe, and think about what this child experiences with her father as she goes out on this adventure with him, and all the ways that the author describes this adventure of this child, I think. It's a girl, but I don't actually know, and her father out on an owling adventure. So this is Owl Moon by Yolen, illustrated by John Schoenherr. It's taking me a while to get there, sorry. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. It just snowed here right before I was reading this today, and it really made me think of this story. It kind of reminds me of the Highlands Ranch Mansion, actually, where I was just walking with my dogs, not at night though. So I'm excited to see what happens as this moon shines bright. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They sang out, trains and dogs, for a real long time. And when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. I love the description of the crunchy snow under their feet and their gray footprints, and how the child's are different than Dad's, than Pa's. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up, as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, the sound of a great horned owl. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. I've read this book a lot, and here's what I'm noticing for the very first time. I think there's a little animal on every page. There was a fox on another page. I see this tiny little chipmunk or squirrel maybe. I've never noticed that before. I hope you like my owl noises. I don't know if they're good or not. Again he called out, and then again. After each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened. But there was no answer. Pa shrugged and I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers all said, sometimes there's an owl, and sometimes there isn't. Do you think this is an adventure that this child's been working on or waiting for years? It sounds like maybe there's older brothers who have done it. And look, there's another animal, a little raccoon. That's my dog, Wilson, you're hearing. I think he wants to go owling with us too. We walked on. I could feel the cold as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back. And my nose and the tops of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet and make your own heat. That's the best description. Someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back. Oh, I can just feel it as I read it. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Can you imagine that feeling as the child has a scarf over her mouth and her mouth feels furry because of it? You know, now that we're wearing masks all the time, sometimes if you have a mask like that, it feels furry. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. What a great metaphor. Whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. Look, there's a deer. Can you feel all the details, all that great sensory detail writing? I sighed and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf, over my mouth, and listened hard. And then Pa called, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. I listened and looked so hard, my ears hurt, and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the trees. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. Is it an echo or really an owl? How exciting. Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, just as if he and the owl were talking about supper or about the woods or the moon or the cold. I took my mitten off the scarf, off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. I wonder why I almost smiled. The owl's call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Oh, so cool. Can you see it there in the picture? It's way up here. Look at its huge wings. How exciting. Have you ever seen an owl? I've seen one just a few times. We used to have one that lived in the tree down here in our park. I haven't seen it in a long time. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without sound. It flew back into the forest. Time to go home, Pa said to me. I knew then that I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words or warm or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. Wasn't that a great story? I hope you get to have some experiences like Owl Moon over this winter break.